How's everybody doing out there in Buffalo? Thank you all for having me here today. I'm happy to be here. My name's Geoff Herbert, but most people in Syracuse and on Twitter know me as DeafGeoff. That's Deaf with an A, Geoff with a G. Deaf because, yes, I was born with a profound binaural hearing loss, which means I have trouble hearing, so if they give me that wrap-up music, someone in the front row better wave at me or something. Geoff, because that's the name my parents chose for me, and it just happened to work out that they rhyme. I was born with a 90% hearing loss, which means I hear about 10% as well as the average person. And my parents discovered this when I was growing up in Massachusetts, when I was about 2 or 3 years old, and it came to be one of those big questions that parents sometimes have to face. And the question that they had to ask was, is he going to learn how to communicate orally, or is he going to learn how to communicate with sign language, American Sign Language, ASL? Or is he going to learn some kind of hybrid of the two and communicate orally and with his hands? And my parents decided, and I've agreed with this decision my entire life, that I had enough of my hearing that I should try and learn how to communicate orally. And so I started doing speech therapy classes, did speech therapy almost every day for 10 years, worked hard at it, and learned all sorts of little tricks and stuff like that I could listen to what people are saying, understand what they're all saying, even if I couldn't necessarily hear them. Just going to show you that listening is more important than hearing. As a little demonstration of some of the tricks that I've learned in my speech therapy classes, I'd like you all to take your hand and put it right here in front of your mouth, about 2 inches from your mouth, and I want you to make an F sound, go and should feel that breath coming out on your hand. But if you make a V sound, same thing, keep your hand there. You don't feel that breath coming out on your hand the same way. However, if you look at a person's mouth as they're speaking, the f and the F and the V sounds look identical. So that's one of the things that I had to learn when I was doing speech therapy. I couldn't necessarily hear the difference, but I could learn how to say the difference and recognize the difference by doing those speech therapy tricks. Another one I can show you, if you put your hand right here on your voice box, your Adam's apple or your Madam's apple, whatever you've got, make an S sound, go you shouldn't feel anything, right? But if you make a Z sound, go zzz, you should feel that vibration right there. But again, same thing, if you look at a person's mouth, the S and the Z sound, s and z, look exactly the same. So that's one of the things that I had to conquer in speech therapy in terms of learning how to communicate orally and also at the same time recognizing what other people are saying. So that's something that I spent a long time working hard at and learning how to communicate with other people. I went to a special needs school when I was in preschool, but after that I stayed in mainstream schools, public schools in the suburbs of Boston, and just went to classes with other people who weren't hard of hearing. So they asked me all sorts of questions, what does it sound like when this happened? What does it sound like if I try on your hearing aid, Geoff? And all sorts of questions like that. And it was something that made me different and unique from all the other kids in the school, but everybody else had the same thing going on. I mean, everyone's got something that makes them unique or different as a person and an individual. And I want to, hopefully explain to you guys that being different isn't a bad thing. You should be who you are and embrace that. And, never let anybody tell you that you can't be who you are or who you want to be. So around the time that I conquered the speech therapy thing and basically plateaued at where I could communicate as well as I possibly could, I started thinking, okay, now what do I want to do with my life? I was 12 years old, so I was thinking to myself, man, my hero is Shaquille O'Neal, still is today, and so I thought, man, I want to be a basketball player. Unfortunately, this is as tall as I ever got, and my ball handling skills weren't necessarily NBA caliber or even NCAA caliber. So I started thinking about what else I was really passionate about. And around the same time, I was, discovering music. I had spent so much time learning to hone my communication skills that I actually started spending time, checking out what other people really liked doing. And one thing I noticed that people really loved and were passionate about was music. So I started listening to music and listening to all different kinds of music. And I really like that immediate impact that it has on people when they're listening to music. When you're getting up in the morning, you're grumpy, you're cranky, but man, when you hear it on your iPod or your radio station, you hear that favorite song, it changes your whole day. You're ready for the day. You can handle anything that comes your way. Same thing if you're at a party or a dance club or something like that, and you hear your favorite dance song, start dancing up there. It's fun. And I really like that transformative power that music had. And so I started listening to more and more music, all different kinds of music. I wanted to see what kinds of music had different, impacts on people. And I started checking out radio, because radio is a place where people played music and wanted to get audiences and wanted to get reactions from that audience. So I started working at my high school radio station, loved it, became the general manager of the high school radio station. And at the time that I was graduating high school, I thought, man, this is really what I like doing. I like that impact that it had when I would be on the radio station and my friends in high school would be telling me, oh, I heard that song you played on the radio. It was so awesome. Or I heard that shout out you gave me in the cafeteria as I was listening. It really brightened up my day, or that was really fun, that was really cool. And I like that immediate impact that radio had on people in playing those songs. So I wanted to keep pursuing that. So I decided to go to Syracuse University and kept studying radio. And I also studied a whole bunch of other things, including 16th century Italian history, things that necessarily might not have too much to do with my present, day-to-day activities, but things that I was interested in. And I worked at 2 radio stations in college. I worked at WERW, an AM station, which is now, I think, an online-only station, and WJPZ, which was an FM station that was top 40. And I worked there, did everything, playing music, had my own show, eventually became the general manager at the radio station. And I liked it so much, and I kept thinking, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do with my life. I love that impact. And I never once, really heard from anybody, why are you doing radio? I mean, don't you have trouble hearing and stuff like that? Well, I mean, some people did wonder and ask me questions from time to time, but truth be told, all it meant was that I had to work a little harder. And what you'll find with most people is that if they love doing something, then they'll be more than willing to work a little harder at it. So I worked harder than a lot of people. I would spend time listening to songs over and over again so I could hear the intros of the song, what mixes would go well together, transitions between this part with that part and stuff like that. And so I would keep working at it, and I was just very passionate about it, and I loved it. Started doing internships, and had my internship at 3 radio stations, 2 in Boston, and then eventually 1 in Syracuse at Hot 179, a Clear Channel station in Syracuse. And right away when I got there, they said, wow, you show a lot of passion and a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of interest. We really like what you bring to the table. And they offered me a job, so I kept working there. And boom, there it was. I was a hard of hearing person who had a full-time job on a radio station. Some people have told me that I was the only one in the country that was doing that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was something that definitely made me unique. If you listen to me on the radio as you're listening to me right now, you can sometimes tell in my voice that I have a little bit of a hearing disability. And it was just something that was a part of my identity. My on-air persona was DeafGeoff. Hey, what's up? It's DeafGeoff. Turn it up and go deaf right here on Hot 179. It was fun, and it was a part of who I was. And at the same time, I did all the other stuff that a morning show radio sidekick would do. I would dress up in the costumes and do all sorts of the crazy stunts. I would wear a diaper and deliver Valentine's in February in Syracuse. I would dress up as a leprechaun on St. Patrick's Day and sit in a giant bowl of Lucky Charms, and you have to reach in to try and find a prize. All sorts of weird stuff like that. But I loved it, and I loved that, same thing, that immediate impact that it had on people, where people would hear the radio station, or they would meet me in person, and they'd be like, oh, DeafGeoff, so great to meet you. I loved that thing that you did the other day. I loved that Christmas parody album that you made, Deaf the Halls. That was, awesome. I just loved that immediate impact that it had on people. And, I never once let anybody tell me or suggest that I couldn't do what I wanted to do because of, my hearing loss. I did have one teacher who once asked me, it was a music recording class, he asked me, can you really do this class? Are you sure you can really handle it? Considering that, you can't hear all the notes on the piano. I can hear the low end very well, just like almost anybody else, but at the high end is where I have trouble. I can't hear the 5 rightmost notes on a piano. I just hear the clacking of the key on the piano. But he asked me, do you think you can really handle this? And I said, yeah, of course I can handle it. I'll work hard, I'll keep listening. And I proved to him that listening was more important than hearing. I would spend, extra time if I needed to, listening to the song over and over again, making sure I had it just right, just the way I wanted it to. And, eventually, I passed the class. I graduated, I'm doing fine. And, I was able to help show to someone that questioned me that, listening is more important than hearing. No matter what your disability is or abilities are, there's nobody who can tell you that you can't do something that you want to do. So that's something that I've tried to convey to people every time that I meet them. I speak to schools all the time, speak to special needs kids all the time. And, a lot of them ask me, things are a little bit different now. I stopped working at radio because I wanted a new challenge. But what I found was the new challenge that I've taken is very much the same thing. I now work at Syracuse.com. I'm a producer. I write about entertainment news, do social media, and do search engine optimization and all sorts of nerdy web stuff. But at the end of the day, the same thing is happening. I'm spending my day listening to what the audience wants, and I'm seeing that immediate impact that it has on people. When you're communicating online, for example, if you're tweeting right now about TEDxBuffalo, then you're seeing the tweets and stuff like that, you're communicating with people, and I love that reaction that you get from people. And as a website or any other type of business, you're constantly listening to your customer, your audience, and you're communicating with them. And what you're going to find and discover, and hopefully you all know by now, is that listening is more important than hearing. You can't just hear them complain about this or that. You have to listen to what they want, and you have to give it to them. So that's something that I've always worked very hard at, and I've always been very passionate about. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say, but essentially what I wanted to kind of hopefully convey to you guys that, anytime that you meet someone, they have something that makes them different and unique. Don't let that frighten you. Don't let them think that they can't do what they want to do or that you can't do what you want to do. Find out what they're passionate about, find out what you're passionate about, and just help them take that step forward to do what they really want to do. Listen to what they want to do. That's why I do what I do. I'm DeafGeoff. I'm a DJ that spins at parties, weddings, clubs, and stuff like that, and I have a 90% hearing loss. You could stand behind me and scream and yell, and I might not even hear you. Or if you have your face turned away from me and I can't read your lips, I might not even necessarily understand exactly what you're saying because of my hearing loss. But if I can read your lips, if I can spend the time listening, I can hopefully show you that listening is more important than hearing. Thank you all very much for having me. My name is Geoff Herbert.